He dashed through a dark foyer and into the main hall. He kept going until eventually he came across another hallway where something at the other end was glowing with gold. Cronus' sarcophagus! The room was so silent, not even the braziers were lit, which didn't seem right. Luke wasn't here. No one to guard the coffin. Nothing. It was all too easy. The whole coffin gave off an aura of extreme cold, like walking into a freezer. Percy drew Riptide and took a little comfort from the familiar weight in his hand. But something else bothered Percy. Something about the presence of that coffin just didn't feel right. Whenever Percy became aware of Cronus' presence before, his evil voice spoke in his mind. Why was he silent now? And what exactly would Percy see inside? Cronus had been shredded to 1,000 pieces by his own scythe. How could they make him a new body? He had no answers. He just knew that Cronus was about to rise and had to strike him down before he got his scythe. Percy touched the lid, which was surprisingly cold. In the middle of the lid was an inscription carved in a language even older than ancient Greek. Percy couldn't read it exactly, but he knew what it said. It said, Cronus, Lord of Time. He pushed back the gold lid, and it fell to the floor, a little louder than Percy hoped. He lifted his sword, ready to strike, but when he looked inside, he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. Laying in the coffin was the body of the very person Percy did not expect to see inside. It was Luke. He was dressed in white and his eyes were closed, and for some reason a piece of his chest was missing. There was a clean black hole about the size of a bullet wound, right where his heart should have been. Percy knew he should have just finished the job, but he was too stunned. He didn't understand. As much as Percy hated Luke, as much as he betrayed him, he just didn't get why Luke was in the coffin, and why he looked so dead. Then the voices of the Telkynes were right behind him. Percy completely forgot he only made it this far from being invisible. He put the cap back on and hid behind a column. The Telkynes were coming in. Percy's invisible jaw dropped. The boy who was with them was Ethan Nakamura. He helped them finish the scythe.
What happened to the lid?
The first Telkyne growled.
Careful,
said the second.
Perhaps he stirs. We must present the gifts now.
No, Percy yelled. He knew it was a stupid thing to do, but Percy revealed himself.
Trespasser,
the Telkyne growled.
Quick, boy, you must pledge your service, like we talked about.
No, Ethan, please, don't do this, Percy pleaded. Help me destroy him. His expression was something like pity. I told you, Jackson, you shouldn't have spared me. An eye for an eye. Ever heard that saying? I learned what it means the hard way when I discovered my godly parent. I'm the child of Nemesis, the goddess of revenge, and this is what I was made to do. He touched the coffin and said, I renounce the gods. What have they ever done for me? I will see them destroyed. I will serve Cronus. The building rumbled. A wisp of light rose from under Ethan's feet and descended into the coffin. The hole in Luke's chest and his scar disappeared. He opened his eyes, and they were no longer blue. They were gold. He leaped out of the coffin with ease. His smile alone seemed enough to make anyone freeze. Where his feet touched the floor, the stone started to freeze. He looked at his arms, as if satisfied that they were his.
This body has been well prepared.
His voice was no longer Luke's voice. It was deep, ancient, and evil.
Don't you think so, Percy Jackson?
Percy couldn't move. He couldn't answer. Cronus threw back his head and laughed.
Luke feared you.
the Titan's voice said.
His jealousy and hatred had been powerful tools. For that, I thank you.
The telekinesis gestured for him to take the scythe. Finally, Percy found his nerve and lunged. He brought down his blade, but Cronus' skin deflected the blade like it was made of pure steel. Then he flicked his hand, sending Percy flying across the room and slamming against a pillar. Just as he was getting up, Cronus had already grabbed his scythe. Percy wasn't sure how he didn't notice before, but each side of the blade had a different color. One was steel, and the other was bronze. It was like Luke's old sword, Backbiter, designed to kill the mythical and non-mythical.
Ah, much better, he said. Backbiter, Luke called it. Inappropriate name, I should say. Now that it is reformed completely, it shall indeed bite back.
Then Percy could only think of one thing left to do. He ran for his life. There was no question about it. This wasn't Luke, not anymore. This was the king of the Titans. This was way beyond Percy's league. He knew he couldn't survive fighting him. He just ran. But as soon as he made it halfway down the hall, his legs felt like they were pushing through water in a pool. Time slowed down around him, and he knew it was the power of Cronus. His presence was so strong, it could slow down time itself.
Run, little hero, run,
Cronus teased. He was right behind Percy. No weapon in the world could stop him, no amount of celestial bronze. "Percy, duck!" Rachel shouted. Her hairbrush flew right past him, and it hit Cronus in the eye. He yelled. For a moment, he sounded like Luke again, full of surprise and pain. Percy was now free, and they headed for the exit. Annabeth barely got a good look at Luke just before Percy grabbed her, and they ran straight out of the fortress.